Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, okay, so on to the third and final part of our look at Usige Source water, and today we're obviously looking at the Islay water. Now, quite looking forward to this because, as we've seen from the early episodes of the show when we looked at Speyside and Highland, the water's obviously passing through the rocks, the flora, the fauna, and what have you of the relative areas, picking up the characteristics from that. So obviously the Islay water is going to be passing through peat, so theoretically it should complement a peaty whisky quite nicely, if the other two are anything to go by. So basically, that's what we're looking at. The whisky that I've chosen today for this little exercise is this sample that's been knocking around for quite a while, actually, since 2008. It's a Bladnoch Forum bottling of Caol Ila, which was distilled in October of 1989 and bottled in August 2008. So it's been knocking about for a while now. That made it 24 years old, and it was bottled at 54.3. Hogshead number 4809 to be precise. So format is exactly the same as the last two episodes. In this particular glass I have obviously some of the water. In the second glass I have some of the spirit, which is neat. The third glass is cut with bog standard Tesco spring water, and obviously the Usige Source is what's cut the last whisky. As I didn't have quite so much spirit in this particular sample, I've only got enough for sort of 10 CLs rather than 17 I think I used in the last couple of occasions. I've also slightly altered the ratio of spirit to water, so it's now 10 CL spirit, 1 CL of water, partly because it's an older whisky for a start. It's 24 years old. It's only 54.3, so I can't remember, as it was several years ago that I actually tasted it, whether it really needed water or not. Chances are probably not, but anyway, so that's why I've slightly altered the ratio of water to alcohol. So right, guess we may as well make a start with tasting some water then. Okay, let's see what this the nose gives us on the water then, shall we? Slightly peaty. It's more of the sort of burnt woody kind of decomposing wood rather than sort of pungent oily peat. There is a little bit of an oiliness, a little bit of tar, fairly crisp, that sort of kind of burnt woody tarry sort of peat, loam, soil, really soily now. Kind of gives it a bit more of a roundness, but it's still fairly fresh. Oh. Quite soft. A little bit of a chalky aftertaste, a bit like the it was the Speyside water that had a slight chalky aftertaste. A little bit of peat. More, like I said, more in the kind of burnt wood, kind of decomposing wood, rather than sort of full-on medicinal briny peat. No brine whatsoever, in actual fact. Obviously, I can't remember where this one comes from. It comes from which one's the one on Islay? Anyway, it doesn't matter really, does it? I'll look it up at some stage, no doubt. So yeah, maybe not quite as pronounced as I was expecting, but there you go. That's the water for you. There is an element, a trace of peat. Like I said, more of the burnt sort of wood character. So we'll see how that what that does for the whiskey then. Right. Okay. So on to the whiskey then. 24-year-old Caol Ila. Nice. Looking forward to this. Now that is classic, old school Caol Ila. And what I mean by old school Caol Ila is that the current, say, 12-year-old and 18 distillery bottling is a lot more oilier than it used to be, and it sort of, when I first got into whiskey, I remember sort of Caol Ila had this kind of real freshness to it, a real almost like kind of garden fruits, fresh character, sometimes grassy. And over the years, as I've tasted it, it has seemed to have become more oilier, less fresh. I mean, you know, nothing particularly wrong with that. I mean, all whiskies to a certain extent do change over the years. But so this is quite fresh, very dusty. Lots of that sort of dusty Parma violet, sort of Bamor-esque Parma violet. Little bit of peat, not a great deal. And again, it's very dusty, slightly burnt, ashy, cindery kind of peat. Some nice sweet barley still. Nice fullness. A little bit of coffee. A little bit of salinity. Although, yeah, quite a bit of salinity in actual fact. I mean, I don't know how long Raymond had this particular cask for, but I imagine it probably spent quite a fair amount of its life on Islay. Yeah, slightly earthy now. Oh, it's a lovely nose, very, very complex, very, very robust. Robust, but not particularly oily, I think. Oh, that is good. Again, like the nose, very dusty oak, dusty peat, but sort of charcoaly, cindery, lots and lots of sweet, dusty Parma violets, fairly broad, fairly rich, dense, some lovely barley notes, a little bit of burnt wood. The alcohol's actually quite intense for 54%. It does kind of mask the finish a bit, certainly dries, add the sort of little bit of salinity into it, and it's certainly got quite a drying mouthfeel on the finish. So it probably did need, or does need, I should say, a little drop of water just to sort of, you know, bring the finish out, certainly. So, but oh, that is just a beautifully mature Islay. I mean, and that's what I love about mature old Islas, is they just become sort of a bit like sort of Speyside whiskies, which become really, or can become really dusty, certainly with the oak becoming very, very sawdusty. And Islay whiskies don't tend to exhibit quite so much of that sort of dusty oakiness, but this one certainly has it by the bucketful, and like I said, loads of that lovely sweet kind of crumbly, crunchy Parma violet notes. That's good. Right, okay, so on to the same whiskey with a little bit of Tesco spring water. Let's see how the nose has changed then, shall we? Now that has brought out the oils. Satsuma, tangerine, heavy oil, a little bit of light tar. but at the same time it's actually freshened it. I mean, this is the kind of bizarre thing about some whiskies, is that it can bring out the oils, but at the same time it can also, like with this one, it's brought out the sort of grassiness, the sort of crumbly, sort of citrus, sweet kind of note. Again, probably a little bit more emphasis on the oak now. Again, really dusty, a lot less of the palm of islets. I mean, that is just absolutely gorgeous. Pity I haven't got any more of it, but that's the way it goes. Yeah. So yes, it's kind of done what I expected. It's certainly, you know, opened it up quite nicely. Oh. That has really opened it up nicely. Sweeter, still some of the palm of Islay, a bit more coffee, a little bit of mocha, more burnt wood and sort of burnt earth. Not particularly medicinal. There's a little bit of kind of iodine-y herbal notes right at the back of the tongue, right on the finish. Full, lots of barley, mouth-watering, salivating finish. It really is impressively good, this whiskey. Yeah, really lingering, and it's like I said, it's that classic old Islay. I mean, you're never going to expect huge chunks of peat in particularly old Islas, and certainly not with Caol Ila. I mean, it's kind of, obviously, as you know, mid-ground in the peating kind of stakes, shall we say. But that is absolutely delightful, absolutely gorgeous. And finally, on to the one cut with the Islay water. Let's see what the nose gives us on this end. Darker. It's made it. Yeah. Whereas that has more emphasis on the citrus, the sort of tangerine. This has more emphasis on the malt, the sort of darker, treacly, tarry notes are more prominent. Yeah. Again, it's brought out the oils, but less of the freshness, less of the grassiness. It's certainly made the nose a lot heavier. Like I said, a lot more treacly, maltier, darker. Still some lovely dusty oak, but yeah, that's a lot less fresh. Yeah, I mean, that's so much more of that sort of tangerine and citrus kind of character, whereas there's none of that at all with this. Oh. Exactly the same with the palate. Darker, maltier, treacle, tar, coffee, chocolate, bog pools, kind of not murky water, but you kind of get the feeling, you know, like I said, less citrus, less crisp, more kind of more darker, or maybe more natural, possibly. Still got some lovely dusty oaks and palm of islets, some brine, a little bit of fishiness. I'm kind of picking up on now. but absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. Mm. Mm. Right, okay, so let's sum this up. Yet again, I think it has gone to show that the water that you use to dilute your whiskey with is incredibly important. And I'm actually quite surprised at how much of a difference the Islay water made. I probably shouldn't have been, but it's certainly, again, like with the Speyside and Highland water, it made the whiskey feel a little bit more natural, and the transformation was pretty remarkable. You know, from sort of being quite citrus orientated when you use a little bit of sort of the spring water to being a lot more kind of darker, treaclier, maltier, you know, bog myrtle, well not bog myrtle, but you know, kind of earthy and natural. I mean, again, I mean, neither sort of is wrong, but it just seems to sort of like bring out the kind of the natural elements of the whiskey, and make it feel more natural, for want of a better word, I suppose. So again, you know, this is good stuff, and I will be getting some in stock. It's not particularly expensive. I think this little tri-pack here is going to retail around about sort of £11. Well, somewhere between 10 and 12 quid, I think, off the top of my head. And I think if you're really into your water and you drink a lot of cask strength whiskies, and you use water to dilute them, then this really will make a big difference. And so yeah, there you have it. You know, that's this afternoon's episode of the show. I will point out two things. Firstly, we will be having, or Gauntleys will be having another whiskey tasting evening. We ran one about sort of a couple of months ago now, and which was very successful, and we'll be running another one, I think, towards the end of next month, towards the end of April. Will be a bit more expensive than the last one because we're going to be using some slightly more expensive and older whiskies. As it's held in the shop after hours, the tickets are limited to 12 people, and if you're interested, if you're interested, then you know, drop us an email to rowan@gauntlywine.com, or you can do it through the website www.gauntleys.com. So yeah, last one was a really big success. Looking forward to this next one. It was, you know, quite nice, quite sociable, and you know, informal. That was the word I was kind of struggling to find. So anyway, enough about that. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the show, and all I have to say is good afternoon and good round.